What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao. Thanks for joining us for the news this afternoon. The fallout from a failed recall campaign took center stage on Tuesday when Taiwan's premier visited the legislature to ask for more government funding. Opposition lawmakers piled on, slamming him over the budget and the cabinet's responsibility in the recalls. Tiffany Wong reports.
A heated session at Taiwan's legislature after recall elections over the weekend failed to remove opposition lawmakers. The cabinet now asking for an extra $2.8 billion in funding, including $49 million to pay for 2 days of recall and referendum elections this summer. It's a sensitive subject, especially for those lawmakers who had been facing recall.
纳税人有让你们搞大罢免吗？纳税人有要让你们搞这样斗争吗？然后现在你还可以夸夸其言说，公投跟罢免的钱你们应该要给我们，公投会给你，公投是立法院通过的啊，结果你现在要纳税人钱，帮你付这个大罢免钱，你去跟民进党党部要好不好？你不应该去跟民进党党部要，跟青鸟要啊。
罢免是公民所发动的，公投是立法院所发动的，在行政机关看起来都是一样，而且我认为。 如果以人民至上的话，更不应该说立法院发动的您支持，人民发动的您不支持。当然，它是一个公民运动。
The mass recalls have soured tensions between the two main parties, the opposition Kuomintang and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. Opposition lawmakers called on Premier Jung-tai to take responsibility for the recall movement and an impending cabinet reshuffle. Zhou says more than 5 ministers and deputy ministers will be replaced by the end of the week. But some lawmakers are demanding more.
赖清德总统1年多来，确实欠台湾人民一个道歉。他是党主席，他是总统，但到目前为止没有听到他对罢免完毕之后，他有对罢团说道歉，罢团说对不起。那本席想请教，赖清德总统说不出口道歉，行政院长卓荣泰愿意帮他道歉吗？
我没有这个任何的权利帮总统道歉。如果行政院任何部分有错误，
那我想请教，
可以，但是我无法替。
Meanwhile, lawmakers from the DPP criticized the opposition parties over cuts to the cabinet's original proposed budget for this year.
114年是审查总预算史上最混乱、删减最多、冻结最严格，这是史上未见的。
The cabinet has repeatedly said those cuts and freezes have caused significant financial difficulties, making it harder for it to carry out its functions and policy goals. Opposition parties say they were getting rid of unnecessary spending and that the additional budget requested does not serve a valid purpose. Regarding the recalls, Zhou himself offered to resign multiple times after the failure of the first wave of votes in July, but he was asked by President Lai Ching-te to stay. Although Zhou is still set to lead the cabinet, his team will look much different after this week, and they'll have the unenviable job of tackling the country's growing political divide head-on. Ryan Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
In a rare move, the American Institute in Taiwan has posted twice on Facebook about recent defense meetings with senior Taiwanese officials. The AIT is the U.S.'s de facto embassy here in Taiwan. One post revealed that AIT Director Raymond Green met with Taiwan's Defense Minister Wellington Koo last Wednesday. The other highlighted Green's Monday meeting with opposition Kuomintang lawmakers. It's rare for the AIT to publicize interactions with senior national security officials. The move comes after Taiwan's cabinet proposed a defense budget of more than 3% of GDP for next year. That still needs legislative approval. 2 U.S. senators have begun an Indo-Pacific tour on military security that includes a Taiwan stopover. Roger Wicker, the chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and Deb Fisher will be heading a delegation throughout the region to discuss national security efforts. Wicker says this trip is meant to reassure U.S. allies of Washington's commitment to stability in the Indo-Pacific. The visit comes as U.S. tariffs have reshaped Washington's relationship with countries across the region. Stops include Hawaii, Guam, Palau, the Philippines, and Taiwan. Taiwan electronics manufacturing giant Foxconn is widening its global footprint, investing an additional $168 million in its Mexican operations. Mexico is home to a new AI server production facility owned by Foxconn Industrial Internet. Observers see the move as a push to boost capacity to meet rising North American demand. Meanwhile, Foxconn reportedly recalled hundreds of Chinese engineers from a factory in India, possibly due to China's concerns over technology transfers. The move marks a setback in its expansion plans there. Defense ties were set to be top of the agenda during South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's visit to the U.S. on Monday, but his counterpart Donald Trump also had North Korea on his mind. John Van Trieste reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump welcomed South Korean President Lee Jae-myung to the White House on Monday. It's Lee's first trip to Washington since taking office after a snap election in June. And the meeting is cordial, even though Trump's criticized investigations into Lee's impeached predecessor, Yoon Suk-yeol.
Thank you very much. Good job.
Trump has a lot on his mind during the meeting, from the war in Ukraine to trade with China. But there was also time for talking U.S.-South Korea defense ties. The U.S. is South Korea's defense guarantor, with more than 20,000 troops in the country and the promise of nuclear deterrence. But Trump has called Seoul, quote, a money machine that takes advantage of this protection. He wants South Korea to raise military spending and maybe even cede the land that major joint military bases sit on.
They would say, but we gave you land. I said, no, you didn't. You lease us land. There's a big difference between giving and leasing. And maybe one of the things I'd like to do is ask them to give us ownership of the land where we have the big fort.
And he has also hinted at more talks with North Korea, the South's nuclear-armed rival. Trump met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times during his first term in office. He says he wants to meet Kim again this year. And although he says his many upcoming meetings make it hard to say when, he remembers a 2019 meeting along the demilitarized zone that separates North from South as a kind of experience he'd like to repeat.
And yet I felt safe. I felt safe because I have a great relationship with Kim Jong-un. I hope it stays that way. I think it will. I have a very good relationship. I understand him. I spent a lot of free time with him talking about things that we probably aren't supposed to talk about. And, you know, I get along with him really well. I think he has a country of great potential.
Whether North Korea is interested is another matter. It has ignored Trump's overtures so far. After the meeting, Lee Jae-myung spoke at the Washington think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He says his country is raising military spending, and it seems he's taking Trump's expectations of more South Korean involvement in its own security seriously.
오늘 트럼프 대통령과의 정상회담에서 한미 동맹을 안보 환경 변화에 발맞추어 더 호혜적이고 미래지향적으로 현대화해 나가자는데 뜻을 함께 모았습니다. 미국의 대한 방위 공약과 한미 연합 방위 태세는 철통같이 유지될 것입니다. 동시에 한국은 한반도의 안보를 지키는 데 있어 보다 주도적인 역할을 앞으로 해 나갈 것입니다.
With his Trump meeting, Lee has navigated a big early challenge during his young presidency, keeping the U.S. president upbeat. But with the Korean peninsula a volatile place, his work is just beginning. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
In Gaza, there is growing international outrage after Israeli strikes on a hospital killed more than 20 people, including medical workers and journalists. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it a, quote, tragic mishap and said the military will investigate. Governments and humanitarian organizations around the world have condemned the attack, with many saying it violates international law and renewing calls for a ceasefire. Reporters Without Borders is urging the UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting over the rising number of journalists killed in Gaza. A New York Times report says the Chinese government is using local Chinese-American associations to spread its political influence. The report alleges the Chinese Consulate in New York has mobilized community groups against local candidates who support Taiwan or Hong Kong. These associations have held ceremonies pledging defense of China's interests, including the so-called reunification with Taiwan. Many of these associations are tax-exempt nonprofits, and those are barred from engaging in political activities. A spokesperson for the Chinese consulate said it always follows international law and has not influenced any U.S. elections. U.S. President Donald Trump says China must give the United States rare earth magnets or face steep new tariffs.
But we have a much more powerful thing that's tariffs. If we wanted to put 100%, 200% tariffs on, we wouldn't do any business with China. And, you know, it would be okay, too, if we had to. But the magnet situation, we have tremendous power over them, and they have some power over us with magnets.
China holds a virtual monopoly on rare earth minerals, which can be used for ultra-strong magnets critical for military technology and many electronics. In April, China restricted exports of some rare earth items and magnets in retaliation for U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. After taking an almost 10% stake in Intel, U.S. President Donald Trump says that more deals like this could follow.
Now, in the case of Intel, it was interesting, but I hope I'm going to have many more cases like it.
Intel was awarded a grant through the U.S. CHIPS and Science Act, but Trump threatened to withhold the funding unless Intel provided an equivalent amount in non-voting shares. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett has said similar arrangements could be made with other subsidized companies in the AI and semiconductor sectors. The move has raised concerns about market intervention, with critics warning that it could undermine the competitiveness of U.S. firms overseas and pose corporate risks. Taiwan's health ministry has launched an online search platform containing the full names and court rulings in the cases of medical professionals who have committed sexual misconduct. Some call the platform unconstitutional and a violation of medical practitioners' rights, while others say patients' right to know comes first. Our reporter Irene Lin spoke with Ling Ya-hui, CEO of the Taiwan Health Reform Foundation, to learn more about why the platform exists and how it should improve.
There are similar public search platforms for sexual abusers who are teachers and lawyers in Taiwan. What's different about this one for medical professionals?
现在问题其实是现在的医师的不良记录，其实不仅查不到，平台资讯又过于简略，等于是在保护不良医师，甚至还有狼医现在完全没有在系统上查询得到。那我们对照，其实律师他有惩戒公开，那教师有性平揭露制度。那唯独医师可以享有资讯黑箱，这是非常不合理的。而且揭露并不是吊销执照，那医师其实在很多情况下，即便他违反医疗伦理，还是可以继续执业。
How much of these convicted medical professionals' personal information can be disclosed to the public?
依照现在依法可公开的资讯有包含判决书、惩戒决议等等的，那把这些资讯连接到平台上，只是让查询更方便，并不会违反所谓的个资法。揭露医师到底有没有不良记录，反而是落实宪法中所保障的人民健康权与知情权。因为病患有权利知道说，现在提供医疗服务的医师是不是曾经有这样的一个不良记录，它攸关病人的生命安全及社会信任，属于重大的公共利益。
Should the platform list out those who are still under investigation?
那我们其实也一再的重申，医界的清白跟资讯揭露其实同等的重要。我们过去也看到说，有医师在判决还没有确定之前，那他又持续对未成年下手的这样的一个情况，还没有走完所有的判决程序之前，我们也认为他其实应该要建立所谓的风险示警的这样的一个机制，才能保护病人的安全。
That was Ling Ya-hui, CEO of the Taiwan Health Reform Association. And thanks again for joining us for What's Up Taiwan. Visit our website to see more of our reports and other programs. Finally, we leave you with images from Sri Lanka, where colorful kites filled the skies during Colombo's International Kite Festival. I'm Eric Gao. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
How does Taiwan stay on the forefront of innovation in a world of uncertain tariffs, wars, and shifting geopolitics? Get answers and more, from award-winning programs to exclusive Mandarin dramas. Download the TaiwanPlus app to any device today. No ads, no bias, just facts. TaiwanPlus.